The question on everyone's mind today is this: are we witnessing the final battle before Jesus returns? Is the Hamas attack on Israel the start of this final battle? What does the Bible tell us about this final battle? And how can we understand the writings of the prophets of old? Today we will investigate this. Welcome to Modern Day Ezekiel. The Bible in Revelation, Ezekiel, and Daniel tells us a 10-nation confederacy will invade and attempt to destroy Israel in the end times. This invasion will only occur after the Jewish remnant returns to Israel in 1948, and they have prospered and live in peace. Bible prophecy also tells us the invading armies are only defeated by the return of Jesus. Where did the idea of a 10-nation confederacy come from? Let's go to the book of Daniel, where he is describing to King Nebuchadnezzar his dream of a great image. Daniel chapter 2, verses 31 to 33 and 41. You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. The image's head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. These 10 toes are the 10 nations that will rise up at the end times against Israel. These same 10 nations are described in the book of Revelation, Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. The 10 horns represent the leaders of the 10 nations. The crowns indicate that the leaders have complete power over their kingdoms. Compare this to Revelation chapter 18, verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Notice that the crowns are missing from the horns. This tells us that the 10 horns on this beast have experienced a change in leadership. It suggests that this beast has united as one entity which will have total control. This is further explained in Revelation chapter 17, verses 12 and 13. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. In other words, the 10 leaders have given their crown to the beast. Ezekiel further describes many nations that will rise up against Israel in the future. Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 8 and 9. In future years you will invade a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which has long been desolate. They have been brought out from the nations, and now all of them live in safety. You and all your troops and the many nations with you will go up, advancing like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. Also in the book of Ezekiel, God names each of these nations that have risen up against Israel and describes his judgment on them. From this list, we can determine the end-time 10-nation confederacy. Ezekiel chapter 32, verse 21. From within the realm of the dead, the mighty leaders will say of Egypt and her allies, they have come down, and they lie with the uncircumcised, with those killed by the sword. Ezekiel chapter 32, verses 22 and 23. Assyria is there with her whole army. She is surrounded by the graves of all her slain, all who have fallen by the sword. Their graves are in the depths of the pit, and her army lies around her grave. All who had spread terror in the land of the living are slain, fallen by the sword. Assyria in the Bible refers to modern-day Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. Ezekiel chapter 32, verses 24 and 25. Elam is there, with all her hordes around her grave. All of them are slain, fallen by the sword. All who had spread terror in the land of the living went down uncircumcised to the earth below. They bear their shame with those who go down to the pit. A bed is made for her among the slain, with all her hordes around her grave. All of them are uncircumcised, killed by the sword. Because their terror had spread in the land of the living, they bear their shame with those who go down to the pit. They are laid among the slain. Elam is referring to modern-day Iran. Ezekiel chapter 32, verse 26. Meshech and Tubal are there, with all their hordes around their graves. All of them are uncircumcised, killed by the sword, because they spread their terror in the land of the living. Meshech and Tubal are modern-day Turkey. Ezekiel chapter 32, verse 28. You too, Pharaoh, will be broken and will lie among the uncircumcised, with those killed by the sword. The Pharaoh is referring to Egypt. Ezekiel chapter 32, verse 29. Edom is there, her kings and all her princes. Despite their power, they are laid with those killed by the sword. They lie with the uncircumcised, with those who go down to the pit. Edom is referring to modern-day Jordan. Ezekiel chapter 32, verse 30. All the princes of the north and all the Sidonians are there. They went down with the slain in disgrace, despite the terror caused by their power. They lie uncircumcised with those killed by the sword, and bear their shame with those who go down to the pit. Sidon is referring to modern-day Lebanon. Ezekiel chapter 32, verses 31 and 32. Pharaoh, he and all his army, will see them, and he will be counseled for all his hordes that were killed by the sword, declares the sovereign Lord. Although I had him spread terror in the land of the living, Pharaoh and all his hordes will be laid among the uncircumcised, with those killed by the sword, declares the sovereign Lord. The Pharaoh is referring to Egypt. Ezekiel chapter 32 has given us 7 nations: Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Jordan, and Lebanon. Now let's turn our attention to Ezekiel chapter 38. We'll start with verses 1 to 4. Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus says the Lord God, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, and lead you out, with all your army, horses and horsemen, all splendidly clothed, a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Magog is referring to modern-day Turkey. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Persia is referring to modern-day Iran, Ethiopia, modern-day Egypt, and Libya, modern-day Libya. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 6. Gomer and all its troops, the house of Togarmah from the far north and all its troops, many people are with you. Gomer is referring to modern-day Turkey. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 13. Sheba, Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions will say to you, Have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to take great plunder? Sheba is referring to modern-day Yemen. Dedan is modern-day Saudi Arabia, and Tarshish, modern-day Turkey. Ezekiel chapter 38 has given us 6 nations: Turkey, Iran, Egypt, Libya, Yemen, and Saudi Arabia. If we combine these two lists, we get our 10-nation confederacy: Libya, Egypt, Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. Here is a picture of those nations. Israel is in green. Around Israel are the 10 nations of Libya, Egypt, Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. The Bible has more to say about the final attack on Israel. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 10. Thus says the Lord God, on that day it shall come to pass that thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will make an evil plan. You will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. I will go to a peaceful people who dwell safely, all of them dwelling within walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are once again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the nations, who have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell in the midst of the land. The Bible also describes God's judgment against those nations. Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 18 through 20. And it will come to pass at the same time, when Gog comes against the land of Israel, says the Lord God, that my fury will show in my face, for in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel, so that the fish of the sea, the birds of the heaven, the beasts of the field, all creeping things that creep on the earth, and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. The mountains shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Ezekiel chapter 38, verses 21 to 23. I will call for a sword against Gog throughout all my mountains, says the Lord God. Every man's sword will be against his brother, and I will bring him to judgment with pestilence and bloodshed. I will rain down on him, on his troops, and on the many peoples who are with him, flooding rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am the Lord. So is this the final battle on earth? Will these 10 nations rise up against Israel? And will this be what causes the return of Jesus? Only time will tell. We need to be ready, to watch, and to pray. Mark chapter 13, verses 34 to 35 and 36. But take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and that day come on you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch therefore, and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. Lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch.